Today I'm going to make a video and talk about dry skin and picking because a lot of people tend to have issue with it. Actually my previous client was talking about it as well, and she was kind of surprised that this is very common, and yes it is. All right, so I'm going to start by actually something different. Normally I don't apply cream before a manicure, but now I started in the winter because I ask my clients to wash their hands. That's the best way of starting a manicure, honestly. Same with myself. And now in the winter, and right now, normally it's very humid here, but I find right now it's really windy and the air is very dry, and you can really tell the difference. So sometimes when you're sitting here throughout the whole manicure with your hands really feeling dry and tight, it's just not very nice. So this is a very light lotion, so it's going to absorb very fast, and it is kind of not very comfortable to work on the hands that are kind of greasy, I guess. So what I'm going to do is, where I'm holding the finger, I'm going to just spray a little bit of alcohol just so the skin is not slippery, because it's difficult to work when the skin is slippery. That also kind of shows me what to do, because water can hide, especially when the hands are freshly washed, everything, but the alcohol shows me everything. We're going to shape the nails first. And normally what I do is I look at all the nails and kind of try to figure out what to do. So normally I go, if the shape is a little bit different, I go somewhere in between. So, and I usually start with the most, I would say, kind of difficult or different nail, which would be this one. Sometimes it's helpful. Hello. Which that gives me an idea how to shape the rest. So, okay, I know I'm going to be talking about dry skin and picking and all that stuff, but I just wanted to go over very quickly the shaping, because I did a video about damaged sidewalls, and people were asking if it's okay to file this area. You know what, there are different opinions about it. I find from experience that if you file it very gently and you're not forcing the file into the skin and you're just filing the white part, it's okay. But I'm not going forcefully separating this area, so I'm just really tapering in the nail this way. I go underneath, not necessarily to take a whole bunch of nail. Can you see? It still has, in my opinion, that's enough. I don't know, some people might disagree, but I have not seen any issues with shaping the nails this way. So yeah, I go underneath just to make sure to smooth everything, because if you have issues with a bit of picking and stuff, that can be very annoying to have edges that are not smooth. So yes, this is an example of sometimes just kind of picking and separating that skin. So yes, I'm filing this, but very gently with a very thin file, just to smooth the shape, so there is nothing to, again, to pick at. But this has to be done very gently. And also this comes up so often, people asking me in the comment section if it's okay to file back and forth. And I talk about it often because, again, I get that question often, but yes, it's okay. It's just that when I'm finished filing the edge, and it doesn't really matter which file I use, it's just not very nice feeling. So what I do is I smooth the edge with a sponge file, which that makes a huge difference, because then the edge is nice and beveled. But I really don't think filing only in one direction is going to make the, doesn't make it any smoother really. The sponge is going to make it smoother. So I guess that comes from that notion that we should only file one way towards the middle, from the fact that the ridges that we have naturally go this way. So people think that the nail is like a wood grain or something, and it kind of isn't at all. Actually, it's the opposite, but I'm going to make a video about it separately. But basically all the layers, well, the nail has like 3 areas, 3 types of layers, and they don't run this way. So you're not splitting anything. You're not doing any damage. It's just that when you file, the nail is just not very smooth, because probably too the grit that I'm using. The grit I'm using like a medium, but I'm using this because I'm not going to work with a very fine file personally, because it's going to take me forever to do it. If you have very little to shorten, then sure, you can just use very fine file. But if I really want to shape the nails, then using a medium is perfectly fine. I'm going to just use, I use the disposable blocks here at work because I throw them away, because you can't sterilize these. But at home, I mean, definitely you don't have to, if you're doing your own manicure, you don't have to throw them away if you choose. So I would recommend something like the files, the sponges that we sell, or these ones. I think they're available on Amazon, but I've heard different opinions that people sometimes buy them and they're not exactly the same. So actually, that's one of the reasons why I started selling the sponge files, because I can guarantee that the quality is always the same. Okay, that makes a big difference because now the free edge is beveled, it's rounded. I'm going to now remove the cuticle, but first just gently nudge the skin fold. So this is, I'm not pushing back the cuticle, this is the skin fold, so I'm doing this lightly. Another excellent question that I had, well, comment, where someone was saying that she likes doing this after taking a bath because it's easier to do, and I don't recommend that, shockingly. It's because when the skin is very wet, it's very soft, it's actually way more prone to damage, and you can do too much, you can go too far. So it's better to just nudge the skin in its like original form, and just go as far as your skin allows. Don't push, don't separate too far. It's just you want to nudge it on a regular basis, once every couple of days, because you see the skin actually sticks to the nail sometimes, and what happens is it pulls the nail as it's growing, it pulls the skin, and eventually it starts to tear, which, you know, it can drive you crazy. So you see, I'm gently nudging it. I'm not trying to separate the fold. And now, yes, you have this hard piece of skin. So know that if you're doing this on a regular basis, nudging on a regular basis, that's one component that's very important. But also, this skin needs to be very healthy and elastic in order for it to bounce back, to shrink back. So during the manicure, I can do one thing, but then the client has to maintain this at home, because only then the skin is going to really improve. So what I do recommend is using moisturizers on a regular basis, ideally right after washing your hands, and using a little bit of oil. And sometimes we see people use oil or advertise or, you know, advise to use oil, and then they just use so much that it's just not very practical, because who wants to sit there with super oily skin? So 1 drop of oil is enough for 10 nails. I also do recommend, there is this product that we sell that's designed for the skin around the nails and the nails, and it's just a little bit lighter, so it's very easy to apply. You're not going to spill it, and it's not going to leave like a greasy greasy residue on your skin. It absorbs very nicely. And I guess because it is a solid, it's just you're applying less of it than you would with the oil. Okay, so let's talk about the picking that is extremely common that people have. And I see that with my clients, and I see that on YouTube in the comment section. People are asking for it, so this is why I wanted to talk about it. Because very often, when people have issues with their hands, they think that going for a manicure is going to solve their problem, but it doesn't. I mean, sometimes, I guess we have our own industry to blame, because we post these photos of like before and afters, and it's like before someone comes in with dry skin, and after it's gone, the skin is perfect. But how was that look achieved? Really by just going a little bit too far, in my opinion. So we can exfoliate a little bit. This is what I'm doing, and shape the nails, polish them beautifully. But if the skin is dry, the last thing you want to do is to file it excessively, because yes, you're making it look better, but you're not actually helping the skin whatsoever. You're making it worse, because you have to first understand what happens, what is dry skin. So there are two issues actually when it comes to picking that can happen. One issue at first sometimes is that the skin is dry and it's rough, and then that urges people to pick that skin because it's just uneven, and that texture of uneven skin is bothersome, right? So once you start picking at it and even filing too much, the skin responds to that by just building more skin. So then you have not only the problem with dry skin, but now you have a problem with thick skin, which that leads to even more picking, because now the skin is hard. So it's going to drive you crazy. So then we kind of obsess about how bad our nails are and how much we pick. So, I mean, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is that what is more productive is to, yes, acknowledge the fact that we have a problem with picking. Because you know what, I can speak from experience, because I used to bite my nails, and if I allow myself, if I don't care for my nails, I will start picking for sure. And I know that I need to have like tools with me at all times, pretty much, because if there is something to pick, it will absolutely drive me crazy. So, but I don't obsess over it. I guess that's the difference. So I don't obsess over it. I just take it as a fact, go, okay, so this is what makes me pick. So how do I avoid that? One thing is, of course, picking is related to stress probably, but this is not something that I'm obviously allowed to really talk about, because this is about cosmetics and not stress management channel. So I know what makes me pick, and I try to prevent it. So what I do is I concentrate, or I change the habit from the destructive habit of picking my nails and biting them to caring for them, and really kind of paying attention to what I'm doing and how that positively impacts my skin. So very often we kind of just apply oil or whatever, but just kind of try paying attention how the oil is helping the skin, how the creams are helping the skin, and that is creating something positive, which is important. So just changing the habits is much easier than trying to obsess and think about stopping something. Yeah, don't stop. Don't try to stop. Acknowledge the fact and then concentrate on something positive. Important tool to have, honestly, in this case. I mean, hey, if someone is able to not pick when this happens, then you don't have to cut anything. But speaking from experience, I think it's very difficult not to pick. So I'm going to show you how to trim and what to trim. So I'm just wiping this with alcohol a little bit. I would recommend trimming it, because sometimes when we pick, we tend to make things way worse. And hands are something that I would definitely not recommend to just walk around with broken skin, because we can pick up anything, honestly. So now, anything that I usually turn the nail this way just so I can see a little bit better. And I'm just going to pick up this little piece without pressing it down, because now if I press down, I'm gonna do way too much damage, and just snip it. So it is important to have a really good pair of sharp nippers. Here I'm not gonna do anything. The thing is too, just realize that once you cut something around the nails, pay attention, because usually, I mean, if you cut it very, very gently, maybe you won't notice that, but sometimes if you picked really bad and then you cut it, you'll see that that skin is going to grow back a little bit harder. So avoid cutting it more. Start to really care for that area. So applying moisturizer, actually no, first use very gentle cleanser. So something like a baby shampoo, or there are many different cleansers on the market. Actually, I'm gonna leave some links in the description box, just because there are a few that really make a big difference, speaking from experience. So first, gentle cleanser, because the cleansers, what they do, or soaps, even worse, not only they remove all the protective lipids from our skin, but they really can, especially the bar soaps, they can really mess up the pH of the skin. And the skin is wonderful because eventually it will balance itself out. But the problem is that when we are washing our hands constantly, that skin never has a chance to balance itself. That's the problem. That's why for hands, extremely gentle cleansers I recommend. And right after hand washing, using a moisturizer with urea. Now, when it comes to urea, more isn't better. Seriously, up to 10%, like even 3%, 5%, which in some formulations we don't know the percentage, but something just nothing excessive when it comes to urea. So urea is actually moisturizing in that range, in about 10%, 5 to 10%, but also it has ability to protect the skin from the detergents. So this is very interesting. Also, another very good ingredient, so super boring formula, but another very good ingredient would be glycerin. So look for something with glycerin. Of course, these ingredients are not very nice to apply. They just tend to be sometimes a little sticky, so just apply very little, which after each hand washing, which is going to make a big difference. Now, because these creams are very light, which is good for the skin of the hands, I would suggest applying then an oil around the nails, because applying oil all over the hands is just not even kind of necessary. Okay, in the meantime, we're gonna polish. So I'm gonna do this one, which is like a bridge filler, I guess, and then a little bit of sugar on top. Another thing, so if you have tendency to pick, very often polish is helpful. Okay, so I had a phone call and I had to get off the phone. Yes, so nail polish. Very often, if I guess people are using nail polish for the wrong reason. So if the nail polish helps you to not pick, then by all means use it. If you like the look of nail polish, absolutely use it. But just know that the nail polish is not very helpful for the nails. So it's not protecting the nails. Sadly, I know we're being told that it protects the nails. It doesn't really. It can damage the nails. But if you, I mean, it's all depends on how much you use the polish and on the condition of your nails. So if the nails are getting a little too damaged, then maybe use less or polish less often, and don't leave it as long. But in many cases, it's very helpful, especially at the beginning, to wear polish. Also, another thing is that if you're using anything like a treatment for the nails, because polishes are not treatments, I'm sorry, they do more damage than good. But anyway, then the treatments that you're using, the beautiful oils, the hydrators and everything, are not going to seep through that layer of plastic, and they're not going to care for your nails. And that's the bit of a problem. So, but if it helps you not to pick, then absolutely. So I'm just going to do like 2 very thin layers of this polish, which is going to dry nice and quick. And I really do like these type of like almost barely there polishes, and I find a lot of my clients also enjoy them. So yes, going back to the skin picking, gentle cleanser, the moisturizers, and a little bit of oil after each hand wash. And then maybe at night you can use something maybe a little bit heavier, or some kind of a serum, something that has more of the ingredients that are very helpful. So now the problem is with glycerin, you can use it in a very high amounts, and same thing with Vaseline and things like that. They're amazing, but they just don't feel very, very good. So people tend not to use them. So my advice would be to just use it at night and just use very little of it, so it doesn't bother you as much. See, this dries almost like a little matte. Usually those rich filling polishes dry kind of matte because they have usually like particles that are supposed to sink into the lower areas of the nails to give the nails a bit of a smoother look. So I also know that people want their nails to look perfect immediately, and they just go on with full-on manicure and stuff. You know, my advice is if the skin is really hurting and it needs healing, then you know what, don't use cuticle remover, because cuticle removers, actually I made a video about it. I'm going to leave a link in the description box about cuticle removers and the mistakes that people make. So you don't really need to remove the cuticle unless you're polishing your nails. So if you're just starting to care for your nails, don't even worry about the cuticle remover. You don't have to. Just nudge back the skin here, and the cuticle will be here somewhere. It's barely visible. But if you care for your nails, and if you're using all these products that I told you, which I hope you don't feel that it's complicated. It's really not complicated. It just has to be consistent. The cuticle is not going to be very visible. And don't worry about it. Once the skin, also when the skin is stretched, actually, okay, if you're very concerned or if you really want to improve, I started calling it contour, nail contour, because it's not a cuticle. I have a download, and I have a download with different pictures, different problems that people have, because sometimes the advice is not just so generic, because sometimes people say, well, just push it back and put some, I don't know, cream or something, but sometimes that's not a good advice for everybody. So anyway, I have a download which I will include in the description box as well. But yeah, don't worry about the cuticle. Keep nudging the skin until it's, and care for the skin until it starts shrinking, and it will. For everybody, it's going to be different. So for example, if you were cutting the skin or filing it too much, and now the skin is hard, it's going to take longer to improve than if someone didn't do anything and the skin is soft but just a little bit stretched. So for everyone, it's going to be different, but care until the skin becomes more flexible, and just keep nudging very gently. Don't try to do everything in one, you know, not appointment, but one sitting. Okay, I'm going to let this dry now for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to apply oil. And this should be dry pretty quickly. Someone was asking me, I have these drops, quick drying drops. So apparently on the Manucurist website, it says not to use these ones for these polishes. I have no idea why. This is just silicone. No idea why they would not recommend it. I guess because this dries so quickly anyway, so it's not going to make a big difference. So you can just use a regular oil, because yeah, this one is pretty much okay. It's amazing that I'm actually remembering what I just said because I got pulled away. Anyway, so this is a bunch of silicones here, very light silicones that help the polish. Okay, here they're not here, they're in the description box of the items when you look online. But yeah, all right, so they're supposed to, what they are supposed to do, they're supposed to coat the polish so the solvents will rise to the surface. Wow, the wind that we have. So now I'm going to use a drop of oil because I just used a whole bunch of alcohol and, you know, drying things. But I actually showed the client how much oil to apply, pretty much almost, well, I don't know if every manicure, but often. So here's what I do. One drop and just go like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you can even now wipe your hands and it's not greasy. Or you can use this as well. Of course, I'm gonna recommend my product, but it's awesome. And so this one doesn't spill. Just go like this. It's wonderful. Okay, and on a regular basis, it makes a huge difference. So again, you wouldn't use that much cream. I'm gonna show you how much cream I use. And of course, the problem is too, not every cream is the same. A lot of creams, find something, it's difficult to find the best cream. Find something that you like using, something that preferably doesn't have a lot of perfume, because perfumes can be irritating, and irritation can also look like dryness too. So something that has glycerin, don't be afraid of Vaseline. Don't be afraid of silicones. They're actually very good for the skin. They're very gentle. They create like a protective layer. So this is how much cream I use usually when I apply it on my hands. Yeah, it's more than enough. And just find something that you like. Oils also are very good. So many different oils. They all have different benefits. But just applying oil, oil is good, but it doesn't do everything either, because oil does not really hydrate the skin. It keeps, to a degree, the moisture in the skin, but it does not add anything. So the glycerin is very good. Urea is very good. The occlusive ingredients like the Vaseline. Vaseline is way more occlusive compared to oils, and the skin will heal. So it's harder sometimes because of the picking, and it will just take time for the skin to soften. So if you feel something, you can just go gently with the block and smooth it, but just know that you're doing this for the purpose of making it feel better, not really fixing it, but because this is not really fixing anything. The only thing that is fixing is just you're not picking as much. Alrighty, I think that looks beautiful, and good luck, you guys, with not picking and creating new habits. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.